Having said so, Honorable Chair, it's a pleasure for me to appear before you. As a retired parliamentarian, it's always a good experience to have a taste of a parliamentary environment, even if it's for a few minutes, before I go back to my new territory. Chair, I've been asked to appear before you and make some submission or statement on a number of issues, and I want to be as quick as I can. The issues that I've been asked to discuss or to give a statement to this committee about relate to recruitment, confirmation, promotions, transfer within the National Police Service. Who does it? Is it the Inspector General of Police? Is it the National Police Service Commission? And I have also been asked to delineate the roles of those two institutions, namely the IG, the Office of the IG, and the Commission, and also the role of the Cabinet Secretary. And I think I'll go straight to the legal issues. Then after that, I'll answer the question which you asked uh, about some letter. I don't know whether I've seen the letter, but about a letter saying certain things. I'll answer that question. Um, Honorable Chair, you have correctly highlighted that the relevant law is first the Constitution, and in particular Article 245 and 246, when it comes to the role of the IG and the role of the National Police Service Commission. But also there is legislation, namely the National Police Service Commission Act and the National Police Service Act. And for those who are staffers or personnel who are not uniformed, or those who are uniformed, the police standing orders apply also in some of the issues that are before this committee. In terms of recruitment, Chair, I'll start with the 246. 246 of the Constitution empowers the Commission to deal with matters of recruitment for all positions within the service, within the National Police Service, including vacancies for specialist positions and civilians. Therefore, the starting point to understand the issue before us is that for purposes of recruitment of all officers and staff within the National Police Service, it is the work of the National Police Service Commission. It is the work of the Commission. However, the National Police Service Commission, like other independent Chapter 15 commissions, may delegate certain powers to authorized persons who act on behalf of the commission. And the best commission that can be compared to what the National Police Service Commission does is the Public Service Commission, which is an employing commission. You know, the Public Service Commission is also, the Public Service Commission is an employing commission, just like the Police Service Commission. Now, what the Public Service Commission does is that it delegates certain of its responsibilities to authorized state and public officers. In many cases, you will see, for example, some of the powers of the Public Service Commission are exercised by principal secretaries on behalf of the commission in matters human resource. And that is allowed when the commission issues what is known as a a delegating instrument, which delegates some of the functions to some specified officers who does that on behalf of the commission. Now, as we speak, the recruitment of constables, the promotion of corporals, sergeants, in fact, all the way to just below superintendent of police, which is chief inspector. It is done by the inspector general on behalf of the National Police Service Commission. And there's a reason for that. Because these are junior officers who populate most of the operational places of work within the service. However, the power of the IG in terms of uh, officers up to that level are delegated powers. And therefore, even when he promotes or transfers officers, he must get the concurrence of the commission, because the commission is the entity that is legally empowered with that function. Then we go back to 245. Article 245 provides for the powers of the Inspector General of Police. And what are stuck out, what sticks out from the enumeration of those powers is that the Inspector General of Police shall exercise independent command of all the officers in the National Police Service. And just so that I don't lose my train of thought, Honorable Chair, at the moment, the practice, as I have said, is that for officers from the level of constable to chief inspector, transfers and postings are done by the IG through delegation. But I know there have been some issues between the commission and the inspector general about that delegation. With one side, the inspector general believes that he doesn't require the delegation. The commission, on the other hand, believes they must delegate that power. So from where I sit and my understanding of the Constitution and how employing commissions like the Police Service Commission works is that the delegation instruments is required to make sure that what the IG does on behalf of the commission is within the law. Of course, for promotions of ranks from superintendent or police and above, all the way to commissioner of police, because beyond commissioner of police, not commissioner of police, all the way up to senior assistant inspector general. The promotions are done by the National Police Service Commission itself, but on recommendations or putting into consideration the recommendations of the Inspector General of Police. And the reason is simple. The reason is whereas the human resource function is vested on the National Police Service Commission, the operational wherewithal to be able to decide which officer in terms of operations merits to be considered for recommendation, the first instance of that determination must rest with the commander of an armed organization. Because the parameters of assessment are largely operational competencies and capabilities. And therefore, what is required, if you, in my humble view, and I've made these views known to both the Commission and the Inspector General when they were squabbling in public, I made it clear that whereas the Commission has the powers, receiving recommendations on promotions and transfers from the Inspector General is the right thing, and it's actually what should happen, especially when dealing with an armed agency which deals with operations, so that they come as recommendations, but they will not have force of law until the Commission sits and either agrees or disagrees with those recommendations. So you can have both, where the IG has some suggestions on which officers he thinks should be posted somewhere, should be promoted to whatever rank, but the Commission must give the legal authority because of the dictates of the Constitution. What we have had in the past is a standoff on one side, the Commission taking the high ground and saying the IG has no powers. On the other hand, the IG also taking the high moral ground and the high road and saying that it is his job. And both parties are wrong. Both parties are wrong. And it is not impossible for both parties to work together for the outcome which is constitutionally sound, in my view. It explains to us the reason why the Constitution has placed the Inspector General and his two deputies as members of the Commission. They are not just there for any other reason. They are there because the initial recommendation, the initial technical documents for consideration by the Commission, especially on transfers and promotions, should come from them. They are the technical people, but they must defend their recommendations in the Commission. And if the Commission disagrees with them, they lose out. But if they agree, as it should, if you ask me, because you cannot have someone commanding an armed organization and he has no say which officer is suitable in dealing with a certain threat and which one is not possible. So both I think the approach of either the usurping the powers of the Commission, or the Commission trying to ignore the inputs and critical recommendation of the commanders of the National Police Service, is not only unconstitutional, national security. When the two offices were quarreling, the Commission and the IG, I was able to call them in my role as the strategic sector leader on policy issues on national security. And I made it clear that they must find a way of working about it. The input of the Inspector General and his deputies is critical, and so is the legal authorization and approval by the Commission. I am glad the public exchanges that were taking place have abated. I am glad that increasingly I've been informed that commission meetings have taken place in the presence of the Inspector General and his deputies, which was a problem that time. In fact, I made it clear to both the commission and the IG that the conduct that the country was witnessing between those two senior agencies of our national security were impeachable conducts. And either of them could be subjected to and violation of the Constitution. I am very happy that that noise is not there, and I want to commend Service, National Police Service Commission and the Inspector General for finding tension in terms of constitutional legitimacy and the delineation of functions and powers between the Commission and the Office of the Inspector General. Whatever differences that were playing out are artificial and they are unwarranted. I think going forward, and that is the, now that this is the committee that is helping the country to look at how we are implementing our constitution. Going forward, every public official, every organ of government must realize that the silver bullet in this 2010 constitution is that no one organ, no one agency, no one state official has untrammeled power. The checks and balances, you must live with others. Nobody has powers to do everything. But on the other hand, nobody has no powers to do anything. And that is the magic in this constitution. So the input, for example, of the IG in recruitment, the recommendations of the IG and the service commanders in transfers, in promotions is critical because they are the people who can vouch for the operational competencies of armed officers. But on the other hand, the legal oversight and authority of the commission is mandatory, and therefore an attempt by the commanders of the National Police Service to perform functions outside the law is also something that is not countenanced by the Constitution. I have been also asked to comment on the role of the Office of the Cabinet Secretary responsible for interior or internal security. And first, Article 245, the ones that speaks about the Inspector General, paragraph 4 provides that the IG is independent, but the Cabinet Secretary may lawfully give direct matters, the underlying policy matters. And that paragraph qualifies that in that instance, the directive shall be in writing. Now, our understanding of this provision is that even on matters which are assigned to either the commission or the office of the IG, namely recruitment, transfer, promotion, so long as there are policy issues around recruitment, transfer, promotions, the cabinet secretary has a role to give strategic policy decision, even on those matters that are allocated to either the commission or the IG. In other words, it is our view that the cabinet secretary is the sector driver for policy on recruitment, transfer, promotion, but generally, in fact, our understanding is based on the same article that I've quoted. You will find, if you look at it carefully, that it says that the same paragraph, it says, no person may give the Inspector General of Police any directives on the transfer, promotion, etc., of any particular officer, on investigations of any particular person. So there is the use of the singular there. In other words, the cabinet secretary cannot direct the Inspector General, transfer this officer, promote officer Y, cannot give directives. But just yesterday, we have given directives that all officers who have served for 3 years across the country must move. That is a policy decision. It is not aimed at directing the IG to transfer a particular officer. It's a policy. 3 years, you must move. And there are policy reasons why that policy guideline has been given across the board. So it's about the time served. It's not about Officer X, Officer Y, because that would be unconstitutional. So in our humble view, Chair and members, there is a thin line between policy and operational issues, and we try as much as possible not to interfere with the day-to-day running of the agencies and restrict ourselves to the policy oversights of all the institutions, not just of the National Police Service, but also of all the institutions within Kenya's internal security, because there are other organs of our internal security. Allow me also to add, within the National Police Service Act, there are further functions. Now, beyond Article 245 of the Constitution, there is the Article 126 of the National Police Service Act, which says the Cabinet Secretary shall A, provide policy guidelines to the service, which is an elaboration of what the Constitution was saying. Provide policy guidelines to the service. And policy is policy. It can be policy on anything. So long as it's touching on internal security, that's a very broad provision. Monitoring and evaluation of this, facilitating the involvement of the public in the activities of the service, facilitating the functioning. Allow me to say that for the Inspector General, his functions are captured beyond the broad powers in Article 245 of the Constitution. The functions of the Inspector General of Police are captured in Section 10 of the National Police Service Act, which says, I think it's cap 1, his powers and functions include implementing, coordinates all police operations, recommend to the Commission and county policing authorities the distribution and deployment of officers. Now, what I was talking about, the input of the IG in recruitment, promotions, transfers has been captured in this section 10 because it says recommend to the commission. Recommend to the commission the distribution and deployment as above the rank of superintendent. In my view, because this will be the IG to make a decision, of course, with the concurrence of the commission, when there is a delegated instrument, an instrument of delegation. Above the rank from superintendent and above, the recommendation is done to thereof by the commission. So the functions are there: determine the distribution and deployment of officers in the service in the rank of superintendent and below. Determine the distribution and deployment of officers of the service in the rank of superintendent and below. Organize the service at national level into various formations, units, and components, wide-ranging powers, very sweeping powers, and for good reasons, so that you can hold the IG accountable for the operational efficiency or lack thereof of his troops. And I think as Kenyans, we must be comfortable that all these offices are created with a reason. One, you will see the IG has a lot of powers. The IG cannot be directed by anybody except it's a policy issue. But in return, the IG's functions are again circumscribed by his deference to the commission when it comes to promotions, recruitment as provided for. So the list is there in my written statement of the various powers and functions of the Inspector General of Police, Section 10 of the National Police Service Commission, National Police Service Act. Therefore, allow me as I end, Chair, to say, first and foremost, I have a good working relationship with the National Police Service Commission and the Inspector General of Police. So far, I have not experienced any challenges working with either. But in the past, there was those tensions, legal tensions between the commission and the IG's office. We have gone out of our way to make sure that we arbitrate and assist the two offices to work together so that the overall objective of organizing our security sector is achieved, so that you don't have indiscipline and conduct unbecoming, because this is a sector which is so sensitive. It is so sensitive that any misconduct could have grave consequences to the security of the country. Outside the KDF, all the other weapons that are used lawfully and for the protection of the country are in the hands of the National Police Service. So we have, I'm happy that there has been a lot of improvement, and these are institutional. My advice, even to myself, is that this constitution has made it possible, or made it, that's why you see even presidential decisions unlike before are subjected to the approval or checkmating by other institutions, either parliament or the judiciary. And therefore, the tension of our country and the law, in my view, has not created any ambiguities. The commission has a very, very strong and extensive mandate, which must be respected by the IG, and the input of the IG as the professional head of the National Police Service, must also count for something and must matter. In fact, National Police Service must also count for something and must matter. In fact, for something and must matter. In fact, I dare say something and must matter. In fact, I dare say if the commission something and must matter. In fact, I dare say if the commission something and must matter. In fact, it's a policy issue. But in return, the IG's functions are again circumscribed by his deference to the commission when it comes to promotions, recruitment as provided for. So the list is there in my written statement of the various powers and functions of the Inspector General of Police, Section 10 of the National Police Service Commission, National Police Service Act. Therefore, allow me as I end, Chair, to say, first and foremost, I have a good working relationship with the National Police Service Commission and the Inspector General of Police. So far, I have not experienced any challenges working with either. But in the past, there was those tensions, legal tensions between the commission and the IG's office. We have gone out of our way to make sure that we arbitrate and assist the two offices to work together so that the overall objective of organizing our security sector is achieved, so that you don't have indiscipline and conduct unbecoming, because this is a sector which is so sensitive. It is so sensitive that any misconduct could have grave consequences to the security of the country. Outside the KDF, all the other weapons that are used lawfully and for the protection of the country are in the hands of the National Police Service. So we have, I'm happy that there has been a lot of improvement, and these are institutional. My advice, even to myself, is that this constitution has made it possible, or made it. That's why you see even presidential decisions, unlike before, are subjected to the approval or checkmating by other institutions, either parliament or the judiciary. And therefore, the tension of our country and the law, in my view, has not created any ambiguities. The commission has a very, very strong and extensive mandate, which must be respected by the IG, and the input of the IG as the professional head of the National Police Service must also count for something and must matter, in fact, for something and must matter. In fact, I dare say, if the commission and the National Police Service. It is our view, and we stand to be persuaded differently. It is our view, and we stand to be persuaded differently, that the reason why goes on to say that after giving so much power on those organs among the principles principles that will guide national security organs